and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to this video with the topic of how are we going through our ascension through many different layerings and where we can still find those hooks. So basically, when you think of a hook, you can think of something like holding you, having its grip on you, that is basically either matrix based or, this means that it's based on false beliefs and not really focused on where that you're working towards your inner self mastery, rather focusing on things that are of external nature or something foggy, hazy, things like that. So that's going to be today's topic. I'm using my board again because it can help me have all these things lined up so that I don't forget what I want to speak to you about. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is ascension? Because when we really get down to business in terms of our mastery, we really need to take a look into any sort of belief we still might be holding about what ascension is. Anything, for example, such as, ascension is when you go out of your body. Ascension is when beings come and they take you on your spaceship, or things like you can ascend through any kind of, people say it doesn't matter where you are, everything is always about ascension, everything is always ascension. That's not always the truth, okay? Because even though the light of ascension always is, it's the infinite spiral, and it's just almost like if you imagine a Ferris wheel. It's always spinning, but you either jump on that part of the wheel or not. So basically we still have to make the choice in jumping on, and even though when we're spinning and we have decided to jump, we're gonna start to have those realizations of, okay, now I jumped on this Ferris wheel, but where am I going? Where am I heading? So this is kind of like where this video is about. Ascension in basic, a lot of people, when I talk to people, is when they perceive ascension, they perceive a lot of it, which deals with going somewhere else or denying the human experience for the benefit of ascension, or thinking the human experience is less than. But in truth, the ascension is the elevation of the human experience, the bringing down, the cultivation of life force in the human body. The human template is used as a template of gathering together of the multidimensional of awareness and tapping into the infinite resource, the well, the chalice of our existence, and then really, really slowly moving it up through different layers and layers as we're rising in frequency. So it's almost like we're coming out of the cocoon each time more and more. The first layer we have to move through is basically the matrix. It's what we call the false grid. So we have to do with all the false belief systems. As we move through even that, we're still going to be faced with new challenges, with new initiations, because as masters in training, which is why these videos, they're there for all of you who are interested in that. Because if you are, you're already magnetically being drawn towards this path. This is your path. It's not always going to be in terms of, some people are not interested in that. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong about it, or it's wrong, or that what they're still living and experiencing is wrong. It's just that, this is a choice. And once we choose it, we're going to start to want, to know more things about it. Then we will get these upgrades on each level. The more we're ready, we're going to receive upgrades on that level. So it's like the dropping of our multidimensional experiences will come, and they will be experienced. It's not something, for example, we're going to read about in the book. Because I had people, they were asking me, okay, what are your experiences about this? And they wanted to know so badly about it. And then I've asked them, well, what are your experiences? And a lot of them said, well, I don't have any. And the thing is that what we're really seeking for is not the knowledge. We're seeking that primal remembrance, the experience that is the true nature of our ascension, as we start to awaken our DNA more and remember and activate ourselves. So first, it's really important to know what is ascension, basically, and to dispel any discordant belief systems that we still have around ascension. And basically thinking ascension is something just happens to you. No, ascension is an automatic choice of your soul when you're ready. It does deal with readiness, but it doesn't mean now you choose it, you can do anything, because it's just going to happen to you. I've met a lot of people who live life almost very passively, and I'm going to talk about this in one of these later points here, but it has a lot to do with the second point, what I'm talking about now, which is the human. No denial. That means the non-denialing of human experience. Ascension is basically the embracing of the human experience. So a part of us is the creator part creates and births life forth, and the other part wants to blossom, wants to mature into what we're birthing. Then that other part is the experience itself, the witnessing, the experiencing of that which we know as life in creation. And when we have all these three multi aspects, we basically live as an enlightened human, which is the human, the light in the form, the light in flesh. So denying the human experience is not really helping us. It's still one of the ascension hooks. I've written down this word hooks. So there's many of these hooks that can prevent us from fully engaging and living our life force, which basically is the true path of ascension. The true path of ascension is to embody the life force of spirit, the overall totality of who you are on all levels. But the first step is really beginning to witness and realize all that you're not. So the human experience is that which is it's our vessel for this consciousness. So there's many different layers of this consciousness, but for us, in order to experience it, we're doing this in this physical form. And I will talk about this more in depth, more in detail, with all the cosmic knowledge that I have. It's not even my knowledge, it's just how it is in the universal truth about ascension, and how souls, as they're ascending, they're moving through into that, and everything they need to dispel in order to move further in their initiations. I'm going to, now this Mercury goes back direct, start to prepare this course that I've been promising to you about the nature of multidimensional ascension. So why is it so important at this time? Why is it on Earth? What are we going through as beings who are witnessing this journey, not just as witnesses, but people who are experiencing it as a human? Okay, so now we're going to get down to some practical things as we're living our lives. So the next point I wrote is the attraction. Sometimes we call it the law of attraction and manifestation versus initiation. So as we really start to ascend, we will no longer witness ourselves as simply stating facts about ourselves, like, okay, we are what we attract, or we attract what we are. These are very superficial beliefs that are still in a way holding us back from truly knowing how are we mastering ourselves, because souls who are choosing nothing but self-mastery so they can become the master of their life force, how they cultivate it and how they use it, they will basically live their journey through initiation, and their journey will no longer be propelled through the experience, such as, okay, for example, I have a relationship in my life and I say, wow, am I this what I attracted? And this again is viewing it very just on the surface layering, because I'm not seeing what this is actually bringing me for my mastery. Those of you who are in this path, I'm sure that you've had moments when you were confused why you created this relationship, because you didn't just attract it. The law of attraction is usually, it's very linear, because we perceive ourselves as this dot, and everything is attracted to us because of our conscious emanation. We forget about the other part, which is we are conscious co-creators, and when we want to embrace our mastery, before coming down this plane, we will develop all the relationship situations and events which will become experiences that we're playing out in the stage. Recently I've been talking to one of my friends about a stage and how parts of us need to come on the stage and play out these roles. So basically that's about um, creating this. It's not just about attracting something, because we are of this vibration. Our vibration can be very high, and yet we will still attract things that immature aspects within ourselves, which are part of our human experience, will need to go through in order to embody the ascension light that our higher self can already, it does have. So this means that through initiation, we will be engaging in those aspects of ourselves, and therefore we're going to come to this. I'm going to skip this point, and I'm going to mention this later towards the end, but I'm going to come to this point which says relating without integrating. So a lot of times when we're playing out these roles in the stage, we'll be having these relationships and communications with each other, and we won't always notice what it's really about. We think it's just about two people mirroring each other, reflecting certain bits and pieces, okay, now let's move on. Next part of my life, please. Because a lot of people who are unconsciously still going through their life are using words such as, oh, I need to release this person from my life, or I need to release this situation. Oh, I can't wait for this to finally move out of my life. The thing is that this is still unconscious. You're not becoming a conscious, integrated person that's, inviting self-mastery and living it. Because as a master of your life force, you're going to constantly observe and witness yourself and then create from that witnessing. You will see that every relationship has a message for you. It's not all about, okay, I've attracted this obviously because, let's say you have an angry person. Oh, I have anger within myself. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's something different. But you yourself, only you are the initiate who can see these things. You can witness, you can observe why this is happening and why you're still playing this role on this stage called life that you have co-created for yourself in your reality. So a lot of times we won't see it. But let me give you an example. Let's say you have a relationship or a few of them, and when you really witness this, let's say there's an energy coming from your higher self giving you these messages, and all of a sudden you connecting the dots and seeing that the common thread of each and single one of these relationships has been very much pointing you to, let's say, an immature aspect within yourself that wasn't yet fully blossomed, and you continuously played out that role on a stage. So to be within those relating experiences without integrating it, we will constantly be reliving it until we finally one day we get it and we embrace these immature aspects. We all have mature and immature aspects within ourselves. And that's why I told you years ago, Spirit told me you're already a master soul, but you also need to become a master on earth. So that takes a very humble approach to our mastery, because we know we're going to always somehow be in training when we're in physicality. So when Spirit is marrying matter and they're coming together in a unified singularity field of our integrated polarity. So here what we really can talk about is the experience. And when you witness yourself on this stage and the roles you play with these people, a lot of times in these relationships, of course, you will see that every single time something that you felt was of distorted nature, you call it negative experience, but it's not really a negative experience. It's just an experience. You will see that when something was inauthentic to you and it came out as a pattern, it came out as a weird experience, or it came out as something you didn't expect or something unwanted, or people were mirroring to you parts that you felt you don't want to engage in that. Why is it still happening? It's because there was a role you played out. And before you witness that role and see what it was about, let me give you a few examples. Let's say you play a role of being responsible for others always. Let's say you play the role of a savior, of a rescuer, of an overgiver, always nurturing others, forgetting about yourself, putting others ahead of you. That's not the same as serving all life in creation and unity consciousness. I've spoke about this before many times. And when you still engage in those roles, these are immature aspects of you that want to be lifted up, that want to be ascended, but they cannot ascend without the integration. So relating without integrating always makes you play out the same roles. Doesn't mean you have to judge yourself now for it. But when you witness different people in your life, in the end, the common thread of the experiences, it will always be a common thread. It will always be one particular pattern that is kind of fragmented itself into different beliefs. But there's only one, no, pardon me, there's different patterns being played out, but there's one belief behind them. So even if it's people of same gender, different gender, it doesn't matter, because in the end it's about that role you've been playing out on that stage. So without integrating, you're never going to see it, and people therefore say, wow, I'm going to release this person from our life because they no longer serve me, or they don't support me, or they are naysayer, they don't resonate with my frequency, things like that. We can still have relationships even when people are not within our frequency, but we need to have them within the boundaries of what kind of energy dynamics is really healthy and balanced between where I am and where that person is, which is the knowing of our higher self, the priesthood, the priestess part of us, and then how does our human self, which we cannot play out in neutrality if we deny our human experience. So how does the human self play it out? A lot of times our human self is always is always cheering others on, even maybe when they're not spiritually mature or they were not equally giving or equally supportive. And the human part sometimes can be naive, can be overgiving, can be standing things for too long when should already leave and not be responsible for others, things like that. But these are parts that need loving the most. These are parts of us that are the unenlightened human experience that has been playing out for eons and eons. And when we become conscious of it, we see that, when we want to let go of something prematurely without integrating, we're again going to play out that hook, because it will come through another person, through another relationship, another synchronicity being orchestrated by your higher self. It will continuously move into your life as an energy, showing itself to you what you need to see. And when you will, this will be a huge awakening through that integration of your sovereign. That will be your inner sovereign, where you truly stand as unique energy essence, and you will witness yourself. And you will, at that time, when you witness yourself as pure energy, as pure essence, you will also witness how you've been relating to others, not from the true self. And when you won't always be within respect, others won't mirror it to you. They won't respect you back because you haven't been fully authentic with them. Let's say you've been wanting to please others, and you confuse a part of you, the human part of you that wasn't yet fully enlightened and ascended, confused that with love. It confused babying someone with love. And we don't really help others because they cannot step into their own mastery, because we believe that we need to somehow be responsible for their own mastery, which we are not. So relating without integrating is always going to create that hook. We're never going to fully see and witness, but what are we creating here? And a lot of the times, I've witnessed this in myself, is when we can be so loving and so coming from our angelic self, that a lot of times we forget to integrate this with the human part, which does need boundaries, because not everyone else can be so pure and loving and, essential binary, basically. And what can happen then is we have this imaging that we always need to be there for everyone. So I had this perception in the past that I always need to leave my door open for everyone. But the higher discerning part of me could already feel which person is now capable of holding that light, that they can enter through my door, that I can let in. And a lot of times my question was, well, if they want to still be in contact with me, or they will still want to take from my fountain, or if they want to somehow still engage with me, rather than asking one simple question, but what do I want in terms of what do I need? What do I see with my higher vision? And I'm going to show you this through a very simple example. I'm going to use one of my favorite movies, which is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, especially the parts about, the wisdom that's shared through the elven beings. And one such example would be when the dwarves, they were the archetype of the beings that cannot see things through higher consciousness yet. They can only see a very minute perspective as of where where they are in their evolution, in their development. And the elves, they have this higher self, instant connection, which they can see things already a bit of in advance, and they know, and they see, and they feel. So the dwarves were in resentment to the elves because at one time they didn't want to go to war with them. And the elves didn't go to war not because they were selfish and only thought about themselves, but because they were so connected that they already seen and witnessed with their inner sight the outcome of their war, and they knew it wouldn't bring anything good. So they had to withdraw their life force. They had to withdraw themselves from it. But the dwarves, because they had a lower density understanding, they couldn't see that. So they took it as resentment, and they thought they abandoned them, and they no longer saw them as friends and companions. So this is one of such examples that we also need to use higher discernment, and which means in our relating experiences as masters of our life force, we need to see where are we willing to move our life force. And usually life force is so smart. It is divinely intelligent. It knows where it needs to go. But the human part, sometimes all of the energy, when you will awaken your tantra, when you will see how it is infinitely intelligent, it will go and it will remove itself, and you will feel it. You will feel that withdrawal. But sometimes our human counterpart is not yet mature and wants to force things to happen and wants to still go there when the life force already withdrew itself. So the wisdom here in this experience would be, how do we then blend this together? That higher self, that higher witnessing, that which we already feel, and the discernment of our own decision. So what do I need? What do I want? Rather than believing that our true service comes through being overly kind, overly nice, allowing people to depend on our life force, when in truth, we need to be the messengers of others coming into their own life force. So a lot of the times that will mean withdrawing ours. So don't be afraid to really feel into both aspects of you. Even the human aspect sometimes can be very needy, and will create this the playing out in that stage of needing and codependency and that. And even that is perfect for that experience if it still needs to play out, because when you will see it, when you will be ready to witness it as that higher observer, and then also integrate it with the human aspect, it'll be like click, 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 one click after the other. It's all like dominoes falling down, and you inside yourself feeling that clarity of why things were happening for you, so that you could come into your mastery yourself without thinking, oh, it's just this thing. I want this person removed. I'm going to create a spell and they're going to come out of my life. It doesn't work like this. With people who want to move into pure self mastery, this no longer works. You can do all sorts of spells, but without conscious awareness, what's really taking place while you're doing this conscious work, nothing will really happen. So I've witnessed this in my own life, that when I integrated that immature human part of me, that part which was sometimes playing these patterns out, the person who was a mirror of that, who was offering me the role, the playing out of that role on the stage, just automatically disappeared without me trying to force that to happen or really wanting it. It can be for years. A lot of people say, I can't get rid of that person. Why is that person still there? Instead of asking themselves, why am I not willing to really move deeper into seeing what part of me is playing out? What role am I still playing out, and why? Because this shifts our energy like this the moment we ask that question. Okay, this was a long point, but I really felt so called to speak about that, because basically that's what's happening in all of our relationships, including with a lot of people who are in this twin flame movement, which has become quite the mainstream as of the late. And without really integrating that beloved essence, that beloved spark, that life force, our unique life force of our true twin soul nature, they go out, they search, they basically go after others who supposedly are supposed to be their divine match, although the energy is not in flow. So we try to recreate that flow by outside external circumstances, rather than feeling whether life force is there. Are things synchronistically moving? Are they in flow? Are we in flow? Are we like in complete beautiful expression of our life force? And that's when we see the indication that there is, things are how they need to be. Life force just is. It's something that is always there, but because we become so controlling of it, we want to control, and we want to play out these parts, which is perfect. It's a part of our process where we are in our human evolution. So I'm going to talk about the matrix relationship, because it's a part of this, what I'm talking about. And the word I'm using here is the wall. This can be another hook, because when you will have an experience of breaking through the matrix of all that is coming from the outside, when you won't no longer say things like, oh, life is such and such because this and that, oh, it's so hard to live in the matrix, I'm trying my hard to be best, but I can't because this and that, or the matrix is still out to get me, or Illuminati's out to get me, or the collective is like this and that. When you become an independent sovereign within your own mastery, you will no longer use words like that. Even when you will notice yourself saying something like this, you will quickly see it as a hook, because you will see it pulls your energy down. It puts this weight on you. And when you break free from that, and you really know that you are the only creator of your reality, you will still meet others. You will still meet people who are still within that matrix. And I call this the matrix relationships, which for a lot of us are ending, because we're realizing that we no longer need to have the energy engaging and exchanging through that wall. So basically what happens is, when you notice this, and you will, because you will have those experiences in your path, when you're in communication with someone who's still coming into their reality through a part of the matrix, for different people those will be different hooks. They might be very awakened in some degrees and still have hooks on other aspects. I'm talking about the full liberation here for those of you who are completely in terms of your inner mastery. I mean, I'm not saying we're all there already, but mostly a lot of you might already feel that, and that's That first part of ascension will totally break free before you start to overflow in your overlighting presence. So when this will occur, you will feel it, and you will feel that freedom. You will be light as a feather. And what you will want to is, you will want to recreate that in your external world when you have relationships and engaging with others too. But not always will that be possible, because there's people who are still coming out into their reality through those filters. And that's why I called it the wall, because this hook, you will feel it almost like when you relate to someone who is coming still from the matrix. That means that you will feel this density. You will feel like, a lot of times I've been saying this to myself, I can't talk to this person. It's almost like they're deaf. They're not hearing me out. They can't hear me. Or it's like talking to a dead end. Or you sometimes say that's, you can say, I'm talking to a void, or what's there on the other end? They don't hear me. It's because they can't, because filters are there, this wall. And recently, Spirit is showing me there's this veil that is formed, and it's not up to us, because we can't uncover it for them, because we had to liberate ourselves and free ourselves just the same way that they will have to. So we can hold a sacred space. We need to stay in our light, which means, again, relating through integrating, and therefore then being in these matrix free relationships, which are no longer within those faulty energy patterns. And we can have those experiences already with some that are awakened to a similar degree that we are. That doesn't always mean they will have the same amount of consciousness, or their life force will be just as powerful as ours, but they will be liberated from the matrix. And I have a few of those relating experiences. And when you know what they're like, you will also see what others are like, because they won't be like that. And you will have that reference point, and you will see that it can be like this. It can be faulty free. It can be beautiful. It can be completely within love, and you will feel it. Even when you will sometimes come to a challenge, you will disagree with the person, for example, it won't be through that layer. There will be those layers between the two of you. There will be no projecting. I mentioned projections here because people who are still within the matrix, they will always, always, always project, because otherwise they wouldn't be there. So they will project, because we project to another in order to finally, when they see, oh, this is me, it's coming from me, but I project it outside of me so I can witness, observe, and integrate it. That's where we're doing that. But you who are living in a filter free and this matrix free beingness, you will witness that, and you will no longer have the desire to be in those relating experiences, which means you can still be you. You can still have conversations, but only to a certain amount. So recently, a friend of mine has said to me that they always had to use the zipper. So it's almost like we would know to what kind of amount, degree of our love light we can share, because not everything which is so sacred to us, and for others who they still don't treat it as sacred, we wouldn't give or hand it out to them. So I had my own experiences when I was going through my own challenges in that way. Sometimes I said too much or spoke too much to people who weren't ready. And what you get is, you get a slap in the face, literally. And it's basically your higher self showing you, be discerning, use your higher self sovereign, that voice within you that shows you who's ready to hear you, what you can have as an exchange. Because a lot of times we project that higher desire to be in that unity with everyone, which means we have it within ourselves, and people who are also, they will come, but it's not possible as of yet with everyone, because it takes two. It takes both to have, to not have that veil. And I've witnessed a lot of times with the people who are still in the matrix, and you're not engaging through those filters and patterns. They will still see you as, recently someone said to me, yeah, we still trigger each other. And I felt, but they don't trigger me. I don't feel nothing. It's like completely neutral. It's because they still have a perception that your reality somehow is their reality, because that's how they see. They still don't see from that neutral discernment. They're still witnessing only from where they're coming from, because they're still in that grid. So it's very important to notice this. A very important part of this is what I wrote here. The scrambled information, which a lot of times it comes through the new age. So I spoke about this in my video about unity consciousness and what keeps us separate. A lot of factors that I exposed there that can prevent us from moving into our union, which are basically just levels and initiation. So this means that the actual experience is that which awakens us, through which we can literally integrate. We cannot integrate knowledge which is just plain old information. So in this new age movement, there's a lot of information streaming out, and people who are still within the matrix, they're still not free within how they think with their own higher self connection, making a link with their horizontal human self. What recently, a friend of mine has helped me to coin up this term, this scrambled. A lot of this scrambled information is going through people's minds, because what they do is they connect and gather bits and pieces from different sources or information. They put them together, but because they're so, a lot of times, if it's not within truth, it won't be unified. It will be conflicting. It will be still in opposition. So that's why people who do have these scrambled information experience, a lot of times what they will say will be in conflict to what they're embodying with their physicality. So we sometimes call this speaking but not walking your talk. So you can say things, you can overpromise, you can think many things, but a lot of times you have these faulty imaging of what reality is, and it will be a reality in that moment, but it's, a lot of these are basic confusions. And someone recently said to me, oh, it doesn't matter where information comes from or who's speaking the truth or not, because truth is always is. And yes, that's the truth. That really is the truth at the core level. Everything is birthed from truth. But because truth birthed everything started to become different frequencies, different states of consciousness. So not every live stream of that consciousness will be a reflection of that unified truth. And I always say this to people, not everything being shared out there supports unity, is coming to serve unity consciousness. There's a lot of faulty teachings outside. There's a lot of what people call false prophets, things like that, things of that nature. And I've witnessed people who are so ignorant. Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, he would say, "Fool," that person's a fool. If you've seen that scene, it's marvelous. It's beautiful acting. But anyway, to get back to the subject, is a lot of people are so ignorant that they believe everything is rosy and peachy, and in the universe everything is just purely benevolent. Yes, when you are in your unity consciousness, but let us not forget that this is a game of mastery. These are initiations we have to walk through, and not everything will always be in our favor, to our benefit, harmonize with us. A lot of it will be trying to steal our energy. A lot of it will try to be tapping into our resources instead of their own. A lot of it will be coming through false programming, through the matrix. So we have to be open with what we're seeing and perceiving. That's being naive if we just think everything's pure love and light. There's nothing out there that is distorted or distracted. But we also, on the other hand, need to trust that when we trust our master, it will recognize these faulty exchanges, and it will witness them. But if we have this filter that says, oh, nothing's out there, through that filter, no, we won't be able to see it, because we have a feeling that none of it exists. So anyway, this scrambled information can be it distorts our connection with the higher self, which is direct. It's that direct link. And someone said to me not long ago that what they can only read about, or the only thing they can take in as information, if it's channeled, which was very faulty to me. And I felt, wait a minute, it's almost like that person could not even believe that things can come through consciously, and through the consciousness just is. It doesn't have to be channeled from elsewhere, or you have to be in a cosmic trance. A lot of times it's exactly the opposite. I'm not saying always, but most of the times it is so. And when I've heard that person said that, it made me think of so many examples of the people who get hooked in this way. Because channelings, a lot of time, they give you what you want to hear, what your mind really loves to hear. Because a lot of times channelings talk to us about things that will happen for us. This new earth is being prepared for you. You're going to be given this. You're going to be given this prize, or whatever it will be, or how things will be. But I've witnessed that a lot of these people are engaging in life very passively, which brings me to this point here, which I talk about. Oh, it's not written here, but this passive energy. And recently, I'd written down here that when someone when someone is only perceiving life as life happening to you, and I've had these experiences with others, and I know how it feels. People only again, there's a term coming that my friend has helped me to coin, and it's spectators. I'm going to use this term because I really like it. So it's someone who only observes, and I've had these people who always say, oh, people are like this, people do things like that, people do, you can observe. That's part of us, is witnessing this reality. But without you living this reality yourself, making your own choices, always observing others, always going to other people's classes, always participating with what others are saying, reading channelings, reading books, it's just tiny, tiny part of the equation. But certain people never engage with life. They never become the co-creatives, the co-creators. They never engage their life force. So this creates this passive attitude to life. And again, I've mentioned this to you so many times before, that being passive is not the same as being in surrender mode and trusting spirit. Because when you're in surrender, you trust life, but you trust yourself and choices you make and physical actions, which are responses to those choices. So again, how do we, let me get back to this matrix relationships, because a thought just came out. People would ask me then, okay, but then how do we deal with these people? Is basically, um, what you can state to yourself, and again, it's taking back your sovereignty, and you can say to yourself that you no longer are willing to participate in anything that is matrix based, that is based on faulty beliefs that support duality and separation instead of unity consciousness, which you now are willing to serve on all levels. But therefore, you also need to include, and also not just within yourself, but how you relate to others as well, and relating to others through that. So you can use like a sovereign decree to yourself, and you say, I only witness, experience, and engage with relations that are within the light web of unity consciousness that I'm choosing consciously to participate and co-create. So that's something that, we're all masters. You can do whatever you want. It's just one of the suggestions. I'm never going to tell you what to do anyway, because it's not what we do here. So one very important aspect in this passive attitude is the denial of sexual life force. Basically, in our society, sexual expression, sexuality has been so suppressed, or either it was over sexualized. So the experiences that are shown to us, either by media or anywhere elsewhere externally, are over sexualized. And this is again to the extremes. It goes from one to the other extreme. What this really means is that when we started to deny the sexual life force, which is basically our own creative life force, we started to, again, disengage from life. And ever since that point, humans have been trying to steal energy off of each other, not just each other, even using meat. They wanted to take the life force from animals, from other sources. But in truth, um, that energy is dead. So you're not even getting energy from another, but you have a perception of needing to get it elsewhere. Because a lot of times when I spoke to people who are, for example, eating meat, what they say is, I need that energy. How else will I get energy? Is we constantly forget that our infinite and eternal supplies are source. But we need to come to the level of owning that energy of our source. How are we birthing it? How are we nurturing and nourishing it? And then how are we experiencing that which we're creating for ourselves? Threefolded aspect of source. So that denial of sexual life force creates this passive attitude. So I've witnessed also sometimes people who, they never make one single action which would be totally from them in terms of relating to others. They're only good in terms of, how they take care of their own basic needs. But in terms of what they're going to create, because some people are not yet capable of creating sustenance from a higher life force. And my friend has recently shared this with me, that all of the seeming abundance, that's the richness of the modern world, or the most rich people on the planet, that's been built on the matrix. It's built on this grid, and that's true. And I've been speaking about this before. True abundance comes from our life force. Our life force creates abundance. And as you know, when you grow, evolve, and expand, your life force expands with you. It's who you are. You are life force. And because of that, your abundance will also grow. Your prosperity in life will grow in exact alignment with how your life force grows in your physical embodiment. And that will be built through lasting solid foundations rather than on the matrix, which is basically stealing off, creating these templates of foundations that are on that lack of respect for all life and creation and the harmonization with all other life forms. So that's not the same. We need to know what we're building on. As masters of energy, we need to create everything from our tantric exchange with the the whole, but basically how it first radiates, how it emanates from us. And that means to be in your sacred inner partnership, your own beloved essence, is to not just raise your kundalini through, people say, the spine, but basically it's not just coming through your spine, it comes out of every pore of your being. You know, every thread of you is pure life force. And this whole channel is going to be continuously now dedicated to the sovereignty and the cultivation and using of our life force in purity, serving the unity consciousness, of course. So again, one other thing here to bring about, we've been recently having this discussion as well about things coming from lack. So when if you imagine the fall, when we created the experience of duality, we call it sometimes the fall, we created this aspect that we are either less than our source, or other beings have been creating the aspect of maybe I am more than my source and I'm going to override and control the source. In truth, we are of source and we're unique aspects of source. But this created a perception of lack. And when we lived in lack, we perceived that we need to fight for our abundance and we need to hope for things coming true for us, or our desires to come true. We need to hope for them. We need to pray for them, you know. And this still comes from the perception of lack, from our fall perspective. The ascending perspective, again, is conscious co-creation through our life force. So the hope energy is not the same as trust. And that's why I wrote here hope versus trust. Divine trust is pure knowingness. Sometimes you don't see things and yet you trust in them because you just know they're there. They begin as energy essence. I always say about myself, you know, I know that I didn't come to this planet to, for example, you know, to have a typical family lifestyle like most people have, you know, the general population. And I always say, well, I'm birthing too. I'm just birthing energy. I'm birthing essences. Every time I have these new activations, I feel I'm birthing, but I'm not necessarily birthing a physical child, but it is a part of creation. And I know where I stand. I know the totality of why it is like this for me. So the more you awaken to your truth, you will see, you will witness yourself the same way, and you will know why things are the way they are for you. One more thing here. We're coming now to this last point of the collective. A lot of times we use the word the collective consciousness, and I've been pondering a lot about this recently because we like to use that term so much, but do we really reflect on what do we really mean when we say the collective consciousness? Because when we say the collective consciousness, is it the same as when we say the matrix? You know, the grid, the faulty grid system that keeps us entrapped in these particles that are scrambled parts and bits and pieces of the human, which is not the whole self-realized total, the alignment of yin and yang, inner, outer, vertical, horizontal, divine human essence together in sacred partnership, marriage of spirit and matter. So when we say the collective consciousness, a lot of times we don't know what it means, right? We just say it because we hear it and we repeat it, but what does it really mean? So in truth, even the collective consciousness is layered within the different fragments of consciousness itself. So when we say the collective consciousness is like such and such, we're still making random assumptions. Are they really coming from the true witnessing of what energy we're moving through? So as energy masters, we need to start witnessing, okay, but what do I call the collective? Can we be more specific? Can we specify, for example, the nature of greed, or the faulty pattern of jealousy or envy or competitiveness, things like that? When we say the collective, it can be so general that we don't even know what we're talking about. So when we go through these different layers of consciousness, we're basically moving through through the, you know, in Dante's Divine Comedy, Dante wrote 3 books when he was witnessing some out-of-body traveling, I think, and he spoke about the hell. He spoke about it as inferno. Then he wrote purgatory, and the last part was heaven, so paradiso. So these are 3 basic layers, and you know, almost like the nature of source, he saw the 3-folded ring. He saw as that source. So this 3-folded nature of source, which you can also say the father, mother, child, or the source, creation, and the experience of creation. So even our most generalized layers of consciousness, you could say, you know, the hell, the purgatory, and the heaven, you know, but this is so generalized. So in truth, how I shared this with you once was that Um, I made a tiny little drawing here if you can see it. So there's a tiny little dot and then circles around it and energy emanating itself out, right? Coming from that. So what this means is that in truth, when we start to ascend, we're going to start to break through all these levels. So basically, when Dante described these levels, and even the hell itself had different stages, different, he called it like different subcategories, right? Or the same was for purgatory, or purgatory is almost like the middle state. When you're still deciding, you go up, you go down, where are you? Where are you going? But basically, these are levels of different consciousness that we can create for ourselves. And as our soul is becoming its own sovereign, as it's remembering who it truly is on the journey of back home to the true nature of us as divine love. So that's why in the end, in Paradiso, the final level is that pure love, is that pure universal love and the attainment of your universal consciousness. So when you go through all these hooks, basically what happens is if there's a circle, right? And when you're moving out and you're breaking through those hooks, what you will feel is immediately when you do, the initiation will be that the hook kind of like pulls back at you at first. You feel like it's like a hook. That's why sometimes maybe when you had an experience with someone and you say, "What's over? I feel it's over," and you've already felt like the completion and the clearing energy, but somehow the person came back or a message of something came back. It's almost like, the hook is still kind of there. It's trying to have this final grasp on you. And that final stage will be through that integration will come embodiment. But when you fully embody what you've realized, that's when the hook will no longer be there. And that's what I've talked about here, that relating through integration. When it's integrated, the hook is no longer there. The hooks are only there as we'll start moving through that sea, the web of the different layers of those consciousness. So when you perceive yourself as expanding, every time you reach a new level, there's always more, there's always more. Like you're traveling sometimes through many different mists and fogs and confusions and layers. And a lot of people, when they start to ascend, they cannot believe. And they say, wow, I can't believe what all is out there, what all I have to deal with. When is it ever going to end? When it's over? They perceive this journey as linear, but it's not. The journey is spiral. It's like this. It's cyclical and yet it's also a spiral. So when you know this, you start to know that your life force guides you through that spiral. And instead of hoping one day will ascend or hoping things will get better or hoping things will improve, you begin to have this trust, this innate trust in life. But you need to know that the sovereign trust comes from you choosing your mastery, no longer blaming the outside. Whenever you say to someone, it's your fault, people say this to me as well, you really know that you're basically just judging yourself, and it comes out as a projection of the judgment of another. But there's something within you that's still trying to have that grip on you that you cannot yet maybe see, but you will, because by you already experiencing it, you're already deciding somehow to move through it. Otherwise, you would not even have the experience. You would choose complete sleep. So for a lot of people who are maybe still confused, or some people are even mentally very challenged in that terms, they have so much going on in their brain and they don't know, and they're choosing a lot sometimes, and they're sending reality, and they choose a lot of things at once. But I still recommend go at it step by step. Don't be too hard on yourself, but also don't project to others, because the moment you will project onto another, you're basically hurting yourself. By trying to hurt another that way, you're hurting yourself. So you can use a mirroring. You can see that person is your mirror, but don't have that, what I wrote here, just projections through the wall, because you're just going to continuously create that wall. And what we can do is, one more recommendation is, if someone would ask, so then how do we shift these matrix-based relationships when one is free and the other one is still like, First of all, claim your sovereignty. Second, don't think you're responsible for the person who's still moving through their own faulty belief systems and all these expectations and layers and mists of fog and separation. But still have love, have reverence, see them as already a master. Don't see them as this poor person who doesn't get it, or that loser. Sometimes people do that, and I've witnessed a lot of people who call themselves enlightened, that they were judging others in terms of how stupid they are, how they don't get anything, how whatever it is, you can say to yourself, oh, that fool, they're so ignorant, they're not willing to see. But in terms of you using that as your inner humor, make it playful, make it I don't know, engage with life in that way, but don't become critical, and don't become critical of the experiences, and at the expense of others, because again, whenever we do that, we're hurting others, we're basically hurting ourselves, and we're continuously still choosing to participate in that separation. So ascension is, in a way, it's that movement, and as our life force moves through every one of those experiences that are still based on separation and the false grid system, we're going to be feeling those hooks, and we need to be first aware what is ascension, so we can see and recognize what the hooks are, so that the third, we can move through them with grace, with compassionate understanding. So I hope this video was helpful for you in some way. Recently, as if you noticed, my format of videos changed a bit because I've been wanting to present some topics on a bigger note. Um, a lot of times I can say to myself, wow, what more is there to share? I've already talked about everything. And so is this knowing that no, I haven't even begun yet. These are just still just layers and layers of where we are now. And I'm always receiving what to share on the level of the group consciousness of those of us who are right now in our group as Ascension Pioneers. It not might be for everyone, of course, especially not as of now. And that's perfect. So those of us who are choosing this, feeling where we are now, feel for yourself, learn to recognize the hooks, because they can be so subtle. But when there's anything repetitive in your life and you're not liking it, ask yourself why. It's nothing wrong with you, because people immediately think, oh, I'm supposed to be more positive, I'm gonna, I should not like something, and they're not allowing themselves to feel things. There must be a reason. There's a wisdom behind you not liking something or being annoyed by something that feels not resonance or discordant with you as an Ascension Pioneer. And the same thing goes for the extreme positivism. It's another one of the hooks, because you're never really allowing yourself to be in the feeling of what is, because that has the wisdom for your immature human aspects that need to marry the spirit in full integration. So don't become an addict of the positivism movement. To be positive, in truth, what it means is to be in a state of constant gratitude. That's the truth. Positivism for me. It's not like see everything as this light and love and nothing ever happens, it's all perfect. And see it as the wise you, and also embrace the human self that's rising up, that wants to rise up, because we're rising it up. So that's it for today. I hope it was, again, and for blessings for all of us. And as always, I wish you so much love from the bottom of my heart. I love you all so much, within the grace of love, wisdom, and power. And if you love to support, you know where to find me. My page is set up Pina Light, and I have courses that I'm sure a lot of you might like. And I will work now on this course of multidimensional ascension to bring so much, so much more, because there's always more. And thank you, those of you who are sharing your feedback with me in terms of how you are benefiting from what I'm sharing, because it means so much to me. And I don't get to see all of you, so sometimes it's good that some of you says, look here, another me sharing and participating. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful experience, and I wish you so many blessings on your journey of ascension, which is just a rediscovering of your awesomeness in terms of truth. No more faulty experiences, but the respect of the truth that you are. So I'll see you soon. Talk to you soon. Bye bye for now. Take care.
Welcome into